Hey there, Ryan. What's up?
How's it going?
Going good. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the podcast. It's been like a week or two, so there's a lot to talk about. I got headphones, by the way. So,
Nice
uh,
upgrade. Oh yeah, wireless headphones too.
yeah, I
Some
just need
Bluetooth.
something. There's like so much noise at the house, with like a kid and a dog and all that. So, you can really lock in. And you got like the fancy Star Wars looking headphones, which most people can't see.
Yeah, I mean, same boat. I live across the street from both a firehouse and a preschool, and so alternating times of the day, there's like sounds of like really loud kids and really loud sirens. So helpful to have like something noise canceling for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty late to the game, but I finally got around to that. Cool, man. Well, there's a lot to talk about. I just did a webinar at 1 o'clock today, and I
Oh yeah,
finished it at 3 o'clock, and we're recording at 3:30.
love it. How'd he go?
It went good. Yeah, we had about over 400 people there live. I think I'm going to sell up to like 417.
Wow.
Had about 1,000 people register, just over 1,000. So a pretty good show up rate. Um, this is for the up and coming cohort course that I have called Write, Grow, Sell. And for podcast listeners, they probably know about this, or they might have heard of the Grow System course I did before, but this is the new and improved and updated version of that. So I like to do webinars leading up into enrollment for that to kind of just sell by helping. Like most of the content is educational, and so I will because we'll probably release this before Write, Grow, Sell enrollment closes. We'll put the webinar link in description where you can watch the recording. I think it's really good. I've done like 12 or 13 of these webinars now, and I think this is the best one that I've ever done. Got the best feedback, most attendees, most sales. We've had north of 150 people enroll now. For the course, we got 250 total spots. So it's been always a fun thing to do.
That's awesome. And well, I definitely want to ask you about the course too, because I think we've spoken about it, and then I've obviously seen all the materials. But would love to know, like, what have you learned about driving people to a webinar? Like, what do you do now differently that you didn't do for the first one?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, a couple of fun things I'll tell you about. So I think you have to have like number one is like the webinar content. Is that hook good? Is the angle good? So this webinar is about how to start a newsletter, get your first 10,000 subscribers and $10,000 per month in sales. It's quite a mouthful, but I think that is something that a lot of people want, and I think that was a good hook. Um, so that's important. Like basically, a headline is super important in your marketing. That's like the foundation of it. And I would do all the slides before you market it, but you really just need to have like an MVP of slides. Because if I were doing my first webinar, and this is what I did, I basically did one webinar for 4 or 5 weeks straight, and after every webinar, I changed and improved on the content. So the first one wasn't that great, and by number six, it was really good, and that's the foundation, right? But it really comes down to email marketing. The thing is, like, probably 80 or 90% of the registrations have come from my newsletter, have come from email. So usually, about in a perfect world, about 10 to 14 days out, you're going to send the first email about it. And so if I'm sending a newsletter to my list, at the top of that newsletter, I'm going to pitch the webinar with a couple sentences, and probably at the bottom too, after the main content. And so if I'm doing it 14 days out from the webinar, I'll be able to send two newsletters to my entire list that mention the webinar. But that's not enough. You have to have dedicated marketing emails. So you maybe have the announcement email 14 days before. And I usually don't send that to my entire list, although for this one I actually did. And I didn't have any negative feedback from any of this stuff. But you might probably would send it to what we call like a marketing segment. So what I did is like take people on my list who have signed up at least 14 days ago. Do they have over 3 opens, over 3 clicks? That's my marketing segment. I'm going to market to those people for this webinar. So send them an announcement email, send them like a, you know, 5 day before, 3 day before. Really the angles are all about the content of the newsletter, right? So all kind of revolved around that, and send them an email 1 day before. And then when you set up your webinar, you have to have reminder emails, which are really important. Luma makes it easy to do that. Every webinar makes it easy to do that. Those aren't as exciting. It's like 24 hours before, the morning of, 1 hour before, 5 minutes before. Those are super important because like it's a challenge to get attendees, but it's or even a harder challenge to get people to show up live. It's a big ask, right? But if you can get 40% that show up live, like I got around that, that's really great. So a lot of people are doing like 20% showing up live. So you should assume 20 to 40% will be there live. And then you send those people the recording afterwards. So I don't know. It's a lot of stuff to break down. I'll probably do a blog post later kind
Yeah.
of breaking down. But I do think it's a must. If you have a product that's in the $1,000 to $5,000 price point, this is a must. I think the webinars and my weekly newsletter have been the most powerful thing to grow the course business that I've ever done.
And how are you liking the course business? I know that you obviously have the agency alongside it. Like, how is that? How has that been? How does it compare to running an agency? Like, is there one? Obviously, you're still growing the agency and you're doing that successfully. But is there a business model that you prefer at this point, or is it just very different?
I think I want to have both in the long run. So I wouldn't say I would prefer. There's things I like and dislike about both. Agency is just like people problems, and the course doesn't really have that. Although I am interacting, and I know pretty much everybody who's in the course as long as they actually are interacting with it. But the course can be a lot more fun in many ways, especially because I'm doing these launches in cohorts, which are really fun. And I'm teaching it live. It's also a lot of work to do a cohort course because you have all the launch stuff you got to do to market it for the launch, and then you have to teach it live, and so that's 2 calls a week for 5 weeks. And each of those calls is 90 minutes, and then making the content for that too. So it's a lot. Like on the days I'm preparing content, I've already made a lot of the content already, but on the days I'm preparing content, I'll like wake up at 5 or 6 a.m., work on the content all morning, do the call in the day before, sometimes do the call at 12, finish the call at 1:30. Then I'm kind of exhausted, and then I have to work on the agency after that. So it's just like it's hard to do other things during that course. And so that's why I don't know if I'm going to do this cohort forever. Like I want to have a course, but I don't know if I'm going to, this might be the last cohort that I ever do because of that. And
Nice.
I'm like really, really on the fence. I'm like 50-50. I'm never going to do a cohort again. I'm looking forward to this one. I've already committed to it, but I don't know if I'll do it next year.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the same lessons that you've learned in marketing the cohort-based course can be applied. Maybe not like the urgency aspect of it. I mean, some degree too. You can do like promotions and stuff too, but the fact that you've like got so much experience in marketing the actual course side of it now, a self-serve course, you probably apply those same kind of lessons.
Yeah. And I'm just really excited about the content. Like it's really good. We've done 2 cohorts, over 300 students. All of this stuff is at rightgrowsell.com, so I won't talk too much about it. We'll wrap it up in a second, but over 200 5-star reviews and testimonials from those little over 300 students, which I'm really proud of. We had I'm forgetting the number. I think it's a 72 or 78 net promoter score from students we surveyed after the course. It's actually 76, I think. I have slides for this, but I can't pull them up right now. Students we surveyed added 276 subscribers during the course, which doesn't sound like a lot, but half the people had no newsletter going into it, and almost everybody has a full-time job, and they have to take the course. So adding 276 subscribers during a 4-week course is really impressive, and it's been a lot of fun. I think like we have, if there's such thing as content market fit for a course, like we have that. So I'm not going to ever stop doing this. I just don't know if it's going to be live forever. So I'm really happy with it. I feel like people get great results, and that's just unfortunately it's not very common for a course. And I think the one thing that's helped me is actually like doing like most people don't do this, do the combination of an agency and a course, because then you can actually implement the real world things that you learned through doing it into the course. And most courses don't have any elements like that.
Yeah, a lot of it's unfortunate how common it is where it's like the people who are selling courses maybe aren't necessarily practitioners or like at least not like presently practitioners where they can take learnings and insights from their actual day to day in the here and now and apply them to the course.
Very
So
few. Very few. There are some good ones out there, and I've got a ton of value from courses and coaching programs over my career, like literally
yeah,
life changing things from that. Like the Sam Evans course years ago was game changing. Hired some coaches that have been game changing. So not to mention anyway, because I think
no,
it's like if you're trying to build a business, improve your life, and you're not doing any type of education or coaching or like just that makes no sense at all.
yeah, and it helps you potentially just not to say like skip steps, but like you can just start with a broader base of knowledge and information going into something. I'm of the same mindset. Like I think it's if you can find somebody whose results you want to replicate and they'll offer to teach you, it's like why not? You know, I think it makes
Yeah,
sense.
and it's actually saves you time, even though you have to invest some time into consuming the content. It will save you time in the long run. And I've taken so many courses where it's like I will go through one module or just a couple slides, and like, okay, I got $1,000 or more of value from this, just from that. And I'll revisit this when I need to. And a lot of people have done that with this course, although we also have a really good completion rate of people actually going through it live. It's way higher than average, but both things can be valuable. Anyways, I want to put a pin on that because we want to
Sure.
talk about other things. But I will say, because we'll try and publish this Monday, and Monday, September 16th, is the deadline to enroll at midnight. And so if you want to enroll, you want to learn more, there'll be a link in the description. It's also rightgrowsell.com. You should be able to watch a webinar recording on that page too to learn more about it and see what I was talking about. But yeah, that's the call to action for today. We'll move on to other fun stuff.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, happy to start where you want. I've got a few notes here just on interesting, I guess, like workflows that we've been testing, but would also love to know, like, I guess, just in the world of growth, in the world of newsletter growth, like, not to put you on the spot. I know we didn't discuss this beforehand, but whether it be in paid media or organic, like anything that you're seeing maybe over the last like month or so or experimenting with that's working, anything like new in that regard.
Yeah, we've doubled down on a lot of things that aren't super new but are working super well. We as everybody knows, we do a lot of Facebook ads. One thing I'm testing but I don't have conclusive results on right now is Reddit lead gen ads. We might have mentioned these on a podcast before. I forget. Have you heard of this before?
I don't know if we maybe,
I guess
but
not. But
yeah.
Facebook lead generation ads where like you click the ad, a little form pops up on Facebook
Oh,
or Instagram, you submit your email. So Reddit
sorry.
has that now.
Yeah.
I think that's an opportunity worth testing.
Yeah, I think we did mention that on maybe either the last podcast or the one before. But is that
Yeah,
working for you?
I'm still in the I can't give a yes or no yet. It's still in the
Yeah.
process, and it takes time to like get all the clients on board and test as many I would like to see to get conclusive results. I think it's worth most people's time. Yeah, there's a lot out there, but like one thing I have found is it's not necessarily a new channel that's going to do the trick. It's just using an existing channel better.
Right.
So, like most of the subscribers people are getting from are coming from a social media channel, a paid acquisition channel, or sometimes SEO. And so the one thing that's been working for me is actually SEO. We did an analysis of our buyers, and although we didn't have a lot of subscribers from SEO, we had a huge portion that came from SEO that actually purchased. So Google search, right? Really just Google, not the other ones. And I haven't optimized for SEO at all up until recently. Like zero. I just write a weekly newsletter. I've been publishing that as a blog post, and we've got a couple of those that are ranked well for terms that are relevant to my stuff, and that brings in subscribers of really high intent. And
Yeah.
so I think in a time where everybody is like kind of running away from SEO, there is opportunity, especially for the type of people that are listening to this, where you're creating content. You probably have a lot of content that you've already published that could rank or rank better just by optimizing it. And so that's what we're working on. We're just doing fundamental keyword research, and then we're writing blog posts that are relevant to that keyword. And then we're basically taking the content that I write and can we add on to that to make it more successful for that keyword it's already ranking for, that it could rank for, and
Hmm.
bring in really high intent traffic. And the thing is, I think AI might replace a lot of like the more simple search stuff like finding a flight or recipes or just basic things like that. But when it comes to long tail content, things that require high knowledge, high insights, it's still going to be search, right? It's like AI is not going to tell you how to monetize your email list in a way that's not super generic and not helpful at all. You really got to go to a source like Newsletter Operator, right? But if you want a product review, maybe you go to ChatGPT, right? But if you're doing the type of content that I am, that we are, I think it's helpful.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I think we might have discussed this on a previous podcast, but this is like an exercise that we've started making like basically like a default part of our process at Tailwind and just with all of our and we've seen a lot of other folks that we've either like met with or worked with who have seen success just using like default Beehive archives, or their archived posts on their Beehive native site. And if you just spend that little bit of extra effort optimizing the SEO title and description, you actually are putting yourself in a good place, especially if the focus is on like a very tactical or actionable question, which is again something we've I think we've discussed. Yeah, just like going that little extra step and optimizing the SEO title and description within the Beehive options, you can actually drive some meaningful traffic and meaningful subscribers from that too. And even if it's not a high volume, to your point, they're generally higher intent, um, and better quality.
Intent's very high. Yeah. I also want to do more giveaways eventually, um, both for our clients and others. Like a lot of people just don't do these because it just requires a little bit of grunt work. Like you have to like pick the winner and then ship them the thing, which isn't really that hard. You just drop ship it on Amazon or whatever. So before today's webinar, I decided to give away a MacBook Air
I saw
on the
that.
call to one live attendee. It's actually
Yeah.
I got a MacBook Air like literally right behind me over there. Um, I we have one because I bought one for an employee. I'm probably just going to drop ship them a new one rather than actually mailing that myself. Save myself 15 minutes to going from the store, or going to UPS or whatever. But that definitely helped to drive attendees and also get people to show up live. Like we had a higher show up rate on this one because I said we're going to give away this MacBook to live attendees versus the first webinar I did for this promotion. We didn't do that. It's also fun to give away things. You can attract the wrong crowd, right? But if you're not doing it super often, I think it can be fun. And another way that we've talked about before is you just give away a product or service that's like super relevant to you. So we worked the Rundown, which is an AI newsletter, and we did a giveaway where like we're giving away a Chat GPT subscription, a Midjourney subscription, maybe a couple other AI tools. And it's like, well, if you want those things for free, you're probably interested in learning how to use AI better and staying up to date on AI. So you'll probably like the Rundown newsletter. So it's like a giveaway that's perfectly aligned. And have you seen examples of like that? There's not a lot out there because most people just flop these and do a bad job. But if you can do that, it totally crushes it. Like the Dink is a pickleball newsletter. They give away a lot of
Mm.
pickleball equipment.
Yeah.
That's one of their number one growth sources. Those types of giveaways.
Yeah, I remember at Trends, we tested a few giveaway like ideas. Like we did like a MacBook, and the problem with that, if you're incentivizing subscribers with like something that's just like universally awesome, and like everybody wants a MacBook or everybody wants a pair of AirPods, is like the general quality of folks that you bring on might be lower. But then we tested, I think, like an office setup, like a home office setup, and across the board it didn't drive as high subscription volume, but what it did do is like the quality was better. So just like to your point, if you're in like a specific niche, if there's like I don't know, like even like a course or like a program that you can incentivize with like a free membership to something, that might incentivize the right people to sign up rather than
Yeah.
just anybody.
It's always going to be personalized to what your niche and your audience is. So we can't give you the answer here, right? But like those are a couple of good ideas. Should have had one more in my head, but I think I forgot it. Oh, another one. Actually, I got the idea. So you've seen referral giveaways. So, hey, we're giving away this thing. If you refer one friend to the newsletter, so you share one friend who signs up for the newsletter through the referral program, for every one friend you share it with, you get one entry into the giveaway. And so we did those a lot at the Hustle. You did them, I did them. They work super well. We usually did MacBooks and Apple products, but I have a client who they have a newsletter called the Pour Over. It's religious, but this doesn't have to be a religious thing exclusively. They're like a nonpartisan Christian focused news source, and they give away a Chick-fil-A gift card. I think it's a $5 gift card if you refer two friends. So their cost per
Nice.
subscriber is $2.50. But like for that quality of subscriber, well worth it.
Hmm.
And that has crushed it for them. That's done a lot better than like the MacBook stuff and that type of thing because you have a guaranteed shot at winning if you refer two friends successfully, and that's like very achievable. One is too easy, but two is achievable and not too hard. So I thought that was a smart thing.
Yeah, and the cost per lead is like totally baked into the cash value too. It's like $2.50 for what's probably going to be a high quality, like high retention reader.
Yeah, and you oftentimes will get more than that. Someone will be like, share it on Facebook or whatever. They get 5 referrals, but your terms are you're only giving away the $5 gift card for two, but you actually got 5 or 10 referrals from that one person. So you can get a lower cost per subscriber of this. And I just don't see that done a lot. And it just makes a ton of sense. I think some people think giveaways are sleazy, but if you do it in a legal, ethical way and you have the right product for it, it's super smart. You look at like Mr. Beast, every content he does has a giveaway in it, and he has the biggest audience in the world because he's using giveaways constantly.
Yeah. It brings an interesting point with referrals. Just I remember, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing. A lot of folks like looked at the Morning Brew referrals kind of program or the Hustle referral program, and they thought, oh, like that's how I need to set it up. It needs to be a prize at 1, a prize at 5, a prize at 10, a prize at like 30. But like the reality is, in like 99.9% of cases, like your best bet is just optimizing for like 1 to 3 referrals from folks, because more than that, like if you have a prize for like 10 referrals, I would say a lot of people just aren't going to hit that. I would say like 10 should almost be like the
The
towards the high
max,
end, the
yeah,
high end of like a milestone program like that. And you should really just optimize to get like 1 or 2 to start and put a lot of effort in that. Because yeah, I mean, you look at really like, I'm sure you've seen a lot of data, I have too, where it's just you look at the way that it's distributed across those different referral milestones, and you have like 2 people on the far spectrum, and both of them are probably like fraudulent, right? And most people are either in like the 0, 1, or 2 like kind of area.
yeah. That's what you got to do. That's actually one of the things we talked about on the webinar. So if you want some more examples of that, you can check that out below. But yeah, the one reward referral program is what I recommend, and you can do like 1 to 3. It's kind of the same thing, but
Yeah.
sometimes you might want to bump that to 3 if you need to for certain reasons. If you're having some fraud issues, you go from 1 to 3. Makes it a little bit harder. But if it's a digital product you're giving away for 1 to 3, it's like there's no cost to it. It's
Hmm.
totally automated too, which is the great thing about it. Um, yeah, there's so many possibilities with that. So I don't know if you have any giveaway ideas for me in the future. Let me know, or if the audience wants to do that. We're kind of doing we're doing the meetup 2 weeks from now, which is kind of a giveaway for podcast listeners. So I'll be tweeting about that soon. If people want to join, you just like subscribe to the podcast, leave a 5-star review, and we're going to do that after our next podcast episode. So it could be your time too. Do you want to get to the topics that you paired? We also have the mailbag now, listener mailbag of questions.
Oh
Which one do you
yeah.
want to do first?
Let's do the mailbag and just see how many we can get through, and then if we have time at the end, we can talk about whatever. I basically just had some ideas on like AI and newsletters, or at least how you can utilize it for the workflow. But we can always chat about that next time too. Let's get through the mailbag.
Yeah, we only got a couple because I just posted and created the mailbag yesterday. The mailbag will also be in the link in the description. So definitely put those questions in the chat. And I'm trying to find the chat to share with you, Ryan. But let me just read this. I was going to share it,
Yeah,
but I'll read it
sure.
too. Okay, so Dustin is interested in your advice and thoughts about newsletter publishing schedules. He's trying to decide between a daily newsletter like Morning Brew or The Hustle, which would allow for higher sponsorship revenue and ideally faster growth, he says, or once or twice per week, which would mean lower sponsorship revenue and slower growth, but an easier thing to take on solo. Also, considering something like a free newsletter once a week and a paid newsletter on additional days, among other things. My newsletter showcase other companies and people in my space, and I hope that some of them would share my post to help the newsletter grow. Okay, there's a couple more things, but I'm just going to stop there.
Yeah.
Okay, give me your thoughts first.
I mean, my thoughts generally, because we get this question a lot, is start very simple. So I would say start with like once or max twice a week, and get in a good cadence and a frequency of understanding what it's going to take to develop the content and send regularly. Like I think consistency is more important than like a high frequency at the start. And you'll also just learn a lot. You like in those, if you come out of the gates with a daily newsletter, um, if your content isn't dialed in, then you're quickly just going to kind of tank your engagement too, because folks aren't just they're just not going to open it. So I would say like focus on putting 1 to 2 like really high value newsletters out a week. And I mean, my thoughts on paid newsletters, like we've talked about this a lot. Like I would say don't even think about it to start. Like don't even I wouldn't put too much effort into like conceptualizing that to begin with. I think prove that you can provide the value in a free newsletter and drive engagement that way to start. And once you build, like, the only way to really monetize with a paid newsletter effectively is to build like a rabid fan base for your free newsletter. Like, that's something I've begun to believe more and more. Or having like something that you can immediately derive like a dollar value to. So if you're giving like kind of like really like insider information that people can take and immediately turn around and make money with, I think that's another good kind of qualifier. But the fact that if you haven't started sending, start with the free newsletter, start once or twice a week. So I would say even go as far as say just start with once a week, get in a good cadence of that. Because it is like, as you and I both know, Matt, like it's a lot of work. Like actually, like putting something out week after week, like it takes a lot, and especially to do something valuable, right? Like you can put out like,
Yeah,
yeah. So that would be my like initial advice, just based on that.
I totally agree there. I would say, just to keep it even more simple, definitely start with weekly. You could even do every other week, but I think weekly just helps you build a habit better and your readers build a habit. Start with an MVP, right? So what is like the smallest newsletter you can create that is still valuable to readers so that you can create it faster and build a habit, right? We're in this for the long run. You're not going to have $1 million newsletter in 1 month. And you can always send more later. Every big newsletter, almost every one, started with a weekly newsletter, even though they're daily now, or a extremely short daily newsletter. So Morning Brew started with a daily PDF that was a one-page PDF. Extremely short. They probably could do it in an hour a day or less. I'm sure it took them longer in some cases, but it's pretty small. 1440, which now has 4 million subscribers and 8 figures in revenue, they started with a weekly newsletter they send to 78 friends and family. And so, yeah, definitely start weekly. I've actually made the mistake when I started my first newsletter in like 2018. For some reason, I saw Morning Brew Hustle. I thought I needed to do it daily. I burnt out very quickly. That turned into nothing. I probably would have been a lot more successful if I started weekly and figured that out. And to put a pin on it, the whole paid newsletter thing, I love your take, Ryan. I would, it's really a bad model. If you're putting your best content behind a paywall, it's almost never a good idea, especially if it's written content in the newsletter format. I would see, can you sell one newsletter? Before you create a monthly subscription, subscription, can you sell one newsletter? That's a much better idea. So can I put together a newsletter on a topic? Maybe instead of a newsletter, I call it a report or a
Yeah,
ebook or a digital product. Maybe it's one, maybe it's, let's say it's 5 to 10 pages long or whatever. Can I sell that for $10, $50, $100? Like do that first before you start a recurring product that you have no idea if it's going to work or not.
I really like that, and I actually think that's a method of testing that I haven't seen too many people utilize, but like that is the way to do it, right? It's like if you can sell a report, then maybe that qualifies, some sort of a subscription model. But when you start with a subscription model, even if you sell like, say you sell like a handful, is that going to be worth the effort of now you have to create this? You're kind of creating like a hell for
Oh yeah,
yourself in a way.
committing to it,
Yeah.
almost
Um,
always a bad idea. But there's a lot of people like who, let's say, what am I thinking of? Trajectory, Ben Thompson. I was
yeah.
thinking to say Ben Tossel. That's a different newsletter writer. He's crushed it. He's like 8 figures and been doing this for decades. But I don't think most of us are Ben Thompson. We don't have that insight or just the will to write that frequently. So in many ways, like it's a amazing business model, but probably not a good one to start with. And let's just try and sell some one off first. Okay, to get to the next question, real quick. This is just the final one we'll do today. So Jake asked, how do you approach ad angles for acquiring subscribers for a local newsletter? This assumes you're using meta ads for paid acquisition. And Jake will also kind of give you some other growth ideas that are not just meta ads, but we can walk you through that question too. Do you want to get started, or I got some ideas too?
Yeah. I mean, I think most, and I think you'll agree with me on this, Matt. I think most like actual ad creatives that are really successful on Meta are pretty simple, and should probably take you no longer than like 30 minutes in Canva to make, or 30 minutes in CapCut if you're making like a video ad. And I think you're in a really good situation with a local newsletter where, uh, I mean, really like any sort of ad, you immediately want to grab people's attention, or the right people's attention. So like any sort of copy approach that's just like attention people that live in, like wherever it is, like Columbia, South Carolina. It's like, did you know like that we have this newsletter. I'm not going to like spitball copy on this live right now, but you know what I'm saying? It's essentially a
We got
very
it.
simple copy approach where grab the right people's attention. Eh, Maybe we can link to in the pod, because I feel like we've both posted like video examples of what this looks like.
Yeah,
It's harder
and
to describe, but
you could probably go look at 6 a.m. cities ad libraries. They have
mhm.
a bunch of different local newsletters. There's one that I helped with ads for called the Go To Winston Salem, which is near me. A lot of the ad angles that Christy created, who runs that, I kind of just gave her some pointers. She did most of it, and she crushed it. And I helped her set up the campaign. So what she would do is she made motion graphics, and the background video she used was just landmarks of that city. So like a spot in Winston Salem or Greensboro or whatever that everybody would know if they lived there. So it's someone downtown, a building, whatever. And then she put text on top of that that said something along the lines of like, do you want to stay up to date on what's going on in Winston-Salem? The best local events, food, music, etc. Live music is a popular thing. Sign up for a newsletter to get that stuff for free. And you can test a lot of variations of that. You can also test like the attention, location, and then like a copy like that below. And she made a bunch of those motion graphics with different, like similar copy and different local backgrounds. Crushed it. Less than 50 cents per subscriber, I think. You can also do that with static images. If you have reader testimonials, that's another great angle. Another one is a problem solution angle. This is very common for newsletters like 1440. 1440's angles are like, are you tired of unbiased news? Well, subscribe to 1440 because we deliver the comprehensive news of just the facts, stuff like that. But like a lot of people are tired of local news that's full of like crime and politics and negative things. And if you're providing things that are like local events, positive news, live music, restaurants, stuff like that, then you can position yourself as an alternative to the established, local news companies. A lot of cool stuff you can do. I think it's just a matter of like make a bunch of stuff, test 10 different ads with 5 or 10 different angles and see what happens.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean the CPAs, like the cost per subscriber for local newsletters running really simple ads like that are very low. Like local newsletters. I still think are just such a great play, and it's surprising they had kind of like a little bit of a peak, at least in terms of like Twitter and folks talking about them. But I still think that there's just a lot of juice there.
Yeah, there's like kind of a peak for the people that are in the know, like us who follow this, but that was probably never really outside of this niche. It's just kind of not well known. There's no one really talking about it. Like I've mentioned it a couple of times. I talked about it on the podcast a couple of times. There's Ryan Snedden, who's he kind of branded himself as the local newsletter guy because he is in many ways, but I haven't actually seen a lot of like he has some helpful content. And so you should check out Ryan Snedden. You should check out his newsletter. But also he's not publishing every day about how to build a local newsletter like some people are with other types of businesses. So there's not a lot of awareness about this. And that's okay. Maybe it's an opportunity for some people, but it's
Yeah,
cool. And there's going to be a lot of great businesses built that way. And just to recap what Ryan Stedden said in our podcast and what I've seen from people that I've worked with, is we've had a lot of local newsletters go through the course. Meta ads are great. Facebook lead ads are great, which are kind of the same thing. Referral programs are great. So Ryan does like you refer 3 friends, you get a birthday shout out. And then just, Facebook and Instagram, publishing local news, new restaurant openings, up and coming events on Facebook and Instagram crushes it. I'm sure. I don't know if you follow like local accounts that just share stuff like that on Instagram. I do, and I would subscribe to a local newsletter. We actually don't have a good one in our area right now, but it's not super complicated.
yeah. Here's I mean, free business idea for anybody who's listening. If you're interested in starting an agency, like local newsletters branded for or built for real estate agents, because you look at like realtors and realty firms, a lot of their advertising budget is just spent in like out of home, like trying to get out in front of folks driving around like on billboards or in like grocery stores. You'll see it like on like grocery carts and stuff like that. Probably very hard to like attribute in the same way that you can with a newsletter or with an email list. So if you're able to partner with realty firms or real estate agents and say, hey, we'll help you build a list of local folks that you can provide the news to every day and own it and brand it with your realty firm. I think that would be a pretty attractive prospect to those folks.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of opportunities for that. Realtors is a great fit. There's probably other business types that are a good fit too that are local.
Lawyers, yeah.
Lawyers, yeah. I even talked to one kind of plumbing HVAC company that wanted to do a local newsletter. And it makes a lot of sense because you can get a big chunk of your local populace at a low cost. And the second thing I wanted to riff on that was we talked about this concept of negative CAC, right?
Mm-hmm.
That local newsletter can be your distribution point to build a negative CAC business by buying or partnering with or starting local boring businesses like Cody Sanchez calls them. So if you have a plumbing company or if you want to build a bar or buy a plumbing company, a local newsletter could help with that. I'm going to put this in the chat. This is what Ryan did. Ryan Sten again. So he bought a. We'll put it up on screen for people watching. He bought. I don't even know what to call this. Like a really luxury porta potty. Are you seeing this link? It's called the Royal Flush. And so it's like a luxury porta potty with like maybe 5 or 6 stalls, and they rent it out to local businesses for like events or whatever you might need a porta potty for. There's hundreds of things you could need one for, and obviously they charge a daily fee or hourly fee. I don't know exactly how it works, and he's obviously advertising this in his newsletter and been able to get a lot of bookings for this. Basically, have it sold out through the audience that he's built in his newsletter, and the newsletter on itself is profitable. So he has negative customer acquisition cost.
This is awesome. I actually didn't know that Ryan was working on this. This is very cool. I'm looking at it. Is like a perfect little boring business. It's like what I would imagine is just like kind of a one-time purchase, and then I guess transportation fees.
Yeah, pretty simple to operate, and some simple maintenance. Yeah, you can get a plumber to do that. And so I think this is number one, but I think he wants to do a lot more. And this is just like, it doesn't have to be a porta potty business. There's a lot of local opportunities that you could do that fit your audience, right? And a great way to figure this out is like see who's advertising in your newsletter and which advertisers are crushing it, and then go and start or buy those businesses. This is what a lot of people have done before.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think it's a really cool idea. I mean, even outside of owned businesses or owned opportunities like that, I think the nice thing about local businesses is exactly, or local newsletters, I should say, is exactly the businesses that you need to target for your for any sort of sponsorship opportunities. And you can make a very compelling case, I would imagine, for, hey, would you like to get out in front of the people in our community or in our city and sponsor the newsletter in that way? So, yeah, I think there is a great opportunity. Maybe we should, I mean, we've spoken a little bit about it today, but I know Ethan Brooks as well. He has a newsletter that he's been working on for some time that's doing very well, called the Austin Business Review. So maybe
Yeah, we
we
can have him back on.
Yeah, I was going to say we should
Yeah,
have him back
let's
on.
have him back on this year. And also, like, yeah, I want to keep having repeat guests. And we're going to do more guests soon. We've just been both doing a lot of projects.
Yeah.
But we'll have more guests in general on. But yeah, having Ethan back, we're really just getting started with this podcast. There's a lot of growth to come.
Totally. Sure is. Yeah, I guess we can catch up just on this last little piece. I guess, yeah, so it's more just about a tool that I found. It's funny because I was like building like a little internal tool, but then I found this tool and I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's called Spirals by Every. Are you familiar with this?
No, can you drop a link?
Yeah, I'll drop it in right now. So Every, which is a media company built by Dan Shipper. I don't know if you're familiar with him. But so they have daily kind of essays, longer form essays and newsletters on lots of different topics, business, AI, strategy, etc. Really good quality content. But then they've also started to build and release tools. And one of these tools I found very useful, and it's called Spiral. And I was initially building this tool internally for our partners in Tailwind, but I came across this, and it basically accomplishes everything I need it to. And what it does is it basically allows you to provide an input. So say like a podcast transcript or let's say like a newsletter. So you could put in a newsletter, and the output would be a tweet thread that's trained on your trained on your voice, your tone, like the examples that you provide it with. What it allows for is just very quick distribution for newsletter operators specifically. So you can take the text of a newsletter, plug it in to a quote spiral that you've created and trained with your examples and what you want it to output, and it'll give you like a tweet thread, a LinkedIn post, a short form video script, and so it just allows for very quick distribution. And I think it's just like a very efficient tool to implement in your workflow. This is something that you can also do with like ChatGPT, with Claude, but I've just found that this is like a very user friendly, useful way to do it.
That's really cool. I've just been reading over the sales page while you were talking about this. I'm going to sign up for this and try it because we do this basically manually with people and myself, and it's a lot of work and it's expensive. And this has some really good testimonials. Lenny Rachitsky, Ben Tossel, people that Ali Abdal, and like the testimonials seem like it really works. And so, like, how do you? I guess my main thing when you first said this is like I'm kind of skeptical of these tools to actually output good results that I don't have to edit significantly. And sometimes I don't think it's gonna be like this forever, but sometimes like I'll use an AI tool and I'm like, I could have done that in the time that it took me to figure this out and
How
do
to
that. You
edit
know what I
it.
mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I
what do
think
you
it's
think?
it's been good at generating first drafts for me. And I think that's like, to be honest with you, and I guess this is the broader point that I was hoping to make with like just any discussion on AI that we were going to have today, is just like, I think the value of AI is in generating, at least in its current state, is in generating first drafts quickly. And like you still need the human element at this point in time. And I think good practitioners and just like good operators should always like give it a final edit, especially for like content purposes, because like AI hallucinates. It uses language that's unnatural still. And so for the example of like a tweet thread or something like that, I would still give it an edit. But what I have found is that because you train it with your own examples, it does seem to provide better first drafts than in a shorter period of time than myself performing the same operation in like Claude or like Chat GPT. So
Yeah.
it's useful in that regard, and it accelerates our whole workflow, which is good.
Yeah, we got to start using this stuff. And maybe some of my team even is without. That's the funny thing about AI. Like a lot of people are using stuff and like not telling their team members or their boss about. But I don't think we're using this because I haven't. Like I know about Lex and I know about Every, but this seems like a newer tool that they launched. So I will sign up. It looks like you also get access to their other tools for free. We're gonna send them the invoice for the ad for this,
Yep.
and that.
Yeah.
um,
Uh, Feel free to sponsor us on the next podcast, every if you would
just
like.
kidding.
No, but I
Yeah,
do like and I like the model of it too. In that this is not just like a specifically saying I think everyone should go sign up for Every, but like what I do think is cool is that with Every, the way that they've built their business model is you sign up for like almost like a paid newsletter subscription along with access to all of these tools, which I think as a model is very interesting. And I think other media operators could explore. I don't know of too many other examples where it's like a marriage between the media and a suite of tools in that way.
yeah. They do some really unique stuff, and so I definitely give them credit for that. They were one of not the first people to do paid newsletters, but like definitely some of the pioneers of it. I don't think Dan, I forget Dan's co-founder, but the other co-founder of Every was like an early employee at Substack, and then he left to do Every. So, props to them. Um, that's awesome stuff. I'll try this out and I'll report back later next time we catch up. That sounds good. So, couple call to actions. Go check out Ryan's agency Tailwind. That's going to be a link below. And then the final one is if you want to work with me in this cohort, grow your newsletter, start it, monetize it. That's writegrowsell.com. And we're going to publish this on the day enrollment ends, which is Monday, September 16th at midnight. So if you want to join, that's going to be the last opportunity to join and get access to that. So, yeah, any other closing thoughts?
No, I'm looking forward to meeting with everybody next week potentially as well. And then yeah, outside of that, I guess we'll see you next time.
Yeah, it'll be fun. All right, this is a good podcast. I'll wrap it up here.